In the fall of 2020, we started a video series on diversity, equity, and inclusion and our approach to it as a school. Since that time, unbelievably, the world has gotten even more complicated. Polarization has increased and civil discourse has decreased. We don't want that to happen at Steward. As an intentional community, we want to respond to the needs of the world, to our community, and to our students.
It is really central to our mission to help students understand how not only to use their voice, but use it in relationship to other voices. We don't all have to agree. That's not an interesting world. You know, there's all kinds of different thoughts and ideas, and figuring out how to be able to kind of walk together, to talk together, to be in community together, to talk with civility and with respect and empathy and kindness. That's a tool that is not only really important here on our campus, but it's really important in the rest of their lives, you know, as they go out of our homes, out of our campus, out of our community, and into a really complex world, that they learn how to continue to use their voice and respect the voices of other people.
When civil discourse is done well, particularly in an educational setting, you ultimately have this positive tension which is needed to come to a better mutual understanding between yourself and your peers, and also a better understanding of your community. And you get a lot out of doing that well, because your own understanding of the world is stretched and expanded and broadened. And because it is so hard, you need to practice doing that. And I think Steward does an excellent job.
It is our primary role to ensure that we create a climate of care, making sure that all students feel safe, feel welcome, and feel like they belong. Without those three things, it's just impossible for students to learn. To facilitate empathetic interactions and prioritize listening and learning, we are practicing civil discourse classroom norms, responsive classrooms, and restorative practices. Steward's classroom norms are safety, presence, evidence, and engagement.
The need for civil discourse and restorative practices has always been there. In recent years, we've just become more intentional about it. Restorative practices is a positive game changer. 80% of the time, it's proactive just to learn about each other, to learn about teachers. If you have that relationship with each other, the 20% of the time that you need to restore a broken relationship, you're not afraid to do so.
A couple of months ago, I had an impromptu conference with someone on campus, and during the conference, one of the things we talked about were how both of us felt in the situation as well as after the situation. After the conference, I actually felt amazing, and I was able to resolve any issues that I had with that specific person, and I now even have a closer relationship with that person following the conference. I think having these conversations allows me to feel comfortable in knowing that someone does hear my voice and does want to help me.
Our middle school students come to 6th grade very well prepared, because in the lower school they start with the building blocks of morning meeting at the youngest ages, and you certainly can see that the kids are comfortable addressing one another, sharing similarities and differences in a very organic way.
Morning meeting is a practice where we sit in the floor on a circle. It has 4 main components to it, where we greet each other, we share what is happening in our lives. I usually start with a question of the day that they respond to in a full sentence. We also have a group activity piece where I am blending both our social and academic worlds together to support their learning. And it usually ends with a morning message that is behind me where all children respond. I'm hoping to give them the building blocks through all of our conversations to carry strategies throughout lower school and middle school and upper school, really throughout life. And I think when more than one classroom is doing it, then you do see that carry over. And when you've got a whole school that's ready to practice this and really put their whole heart into it, I think we do see children who will take care of issues and make these connections all on their own.
Restorative practices combines a number of different practices between education, leadership, psychology, and what it seeks to do is figure out how do communities build, maintain, and sustain, and what do you do when a community is harmed, how do you restore that? So that's where the name restorative practices comes from. This is a rather bold approach that we're taking, but it's not uncommon. Many other private schools are diving into the work of restorative practices because they see the benefits of it. As we consider who we want to be in this community and why families are sending their children to the Steward School, of course we have amazing things to offer. Of course it's for the robust academics, but it's also for the community. And our goal in building relationships and building community is connection. And so that's why we are willing to take this bold approach, is because these things matter so much to us.